All right, guys. Welcome back to the Pulse with Willie and Al. How's it going today, brother?
Good, good. I'm glad that you survived the plague. It looked a little touch and go there for a second. But,
Yeah.
Stop getting cooties from your wife.
Yeah, I know.
And
Well,
that won't happen.
yeah. I mean, let's just start out by saying I missed you a lot.
I missed you too, man.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. So we it's been tough. We had some fun trips, some vacation, some sickness, and we are almost out of the woods on that. So very happy to be back, and I'm glad to be back today with our 60th episode.
Woo!
So the big 60, that's right, man. Al and I are back today, and we are bringing you episode number 60. Yeah.
This show is now geriatric.
Yeah, it
this
is.
Show is now geriatric. Yeah.
It is.
Love to see it.
Yeah. This is episode 60, a little bit of Pixie, because that's what some of these NFL teams are going to need this year to be able to make the playoffs, right? It's some pixie dust. So, but before we jump into the NFL, let's crash into Major League Baseball. And yes, guys, we know we missed out on a World Series preview because of me being sick. I'll, point the finger, blame me. Just know that I don't care. I don't. But yeah. I had a 10-day cold from hell that would make me sell my soul. I would have sold my soul and done some things I am not proud of, and my parents would not have been proud of to make myself feel better. But turns out some vitamin C, some stuff like that for 10 days, nice little 10-day regimen. So, but dude, let's hop in. Let's recap on Dodgers winning the World Series. And, before we get too far into that, I'm just going to give you the floor because is there anything you want to say to Uncle Roger?
Yeah, legally I am obligated to say fuck the Yankees. Fuck them. They fuck them in their little league defense that they played.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I got to say about that. And you know what? Because if I had to watch the Yankees come back from a 3-0 deficit to win the World Series, that would have been I could list about 100 things I would rather do than watch that, and 80 of them involve oncoming traffic.
So, this is the thing about that too. It would have been particularly painful for a Red Sox fan to experience that, considering you guys have history on your side when it comes to coming back from 3-0 deficits. So,
yeah, what up?
Yeah, so I think it would have been very difficult to, that would have been a nice stand in traffic and see what happens at that point. But let's
you know that Yankees fans would have been insufferable about it.
Yeah,
insufferable.
Yeah, absolutely. It would have been really bad.
They had a little confidence after they won Game 4, and I was like, okay,
yeah,
calm down. You've won one.
Yeah,
and then you know what? They tried winning Game 5, and they were like, you know what? My bad. Nobody knows how to cover first base on a grounder.
Hey. A very interesting thing. But I got to ask you, what were the big storylines for you? Because I saw some not so nice memes. I don't know if I shared one of them with you about Otami.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was okay. And obviously we can't say that on the air. But what were some of the big storylines for you in the World Series?
Here's one. After Game 1, why didn't they keep pitching to Freddie Freeman? Just stop. Just walk him. Deal with Tommy Edman. If Tommy Edman beats you, great. If Max Muncy beats you, cool. So be it. But don't let a guy that is a former MVP, a future Hall of Famer, get that momentum on you.
Yeah.
Just don't.
He started with Game 1, right? That grand slam just still gives me chills. And he just hit a bunch of piss missiles in the World Series.
I want to talk about that real quick because the call from Joe Davis is probably, and I know there's some recency bias in this, but like is one of the better calls I've heard in my lifetime on a play in baseball. Like the whole Gibby meet, like she's gone, which is a shout out to Vin Scully who did the same thing during the Gibson home run in '88.
Hmm.
But then like to be like to have the awareness of that moment, uh to be like Gibby meet Freddie, like Dodgers take game one, like that's huge.
Yeah.
Like that, it was such a cool moment.
Hmm.
And like what's also not talked about is like those home runs were hit the exact same time, 37 years apart, like down to the minute, like
Wow.
which is bonkers. And like for it that to be like the first walk-off grand slam in World Series history, like we've played over 100 of these and like that's never happened. That's just bananas.
Yeah.
Like and so that was like really cool to see. And to go back a little further on that too, like bringing in Nestor Cortez was like one of like that decision cost the Yankees the World Series. Like
Yeah.
you Cortez hadn't pitched in like a month and a half.
Right.
Like didn't pitch in the play. Wasn't on any of the LDS or LCS rosters. They added him to the World Series roster, and I was like, that's kind of weird. And then like to bring him in that high leverage of a situation, like
Yeah, really,
yeah,
really a tough decision. And if he ends up getting him out there and gets out of the jam, then it looks like they're heroes, right? But
yeah, they win game one, and you're like, cool, like
yeah, for me though, like, and this is obviously like I'm a Freddie Freeman fan. Him leaving Atlanta was really sad, just because he is as much of a great baseball player as he is. I feel like he's double that as a person.
yeah,
And just, I mean, clearly wears emotion on his sleeve, but for any of the kids out there that are watching baseball nowadays or watching professional sports, this is a guy you can look to that's a role model. He really is. And like,
yeah,
did you hear what he said after he ended up winning the World Series? Like they won the World Series. He's like, this one's for my dad. And like,
yeah,
just like it just, it almost it tears at your heart hearing it, because you just know that he's just all heart when he talks about it. But the interviews that he gives, it
yeah,
it also can give other players a path to understand how to be able to handle that. And I don't know, as I watched him be able to kind of meander through this World Series, kind of on one leg, and injured, banged up, dealing with kind of the trauma of his son as well. It felt very nice to see him win. Very
yeah.
nice. So
Yeah, I think for me, what was really nice, you and I are kind of similar in this aspect where we watched one of our favorite players on our favorite teams leave to go to the Dodgers.
mhm.
And now Mookie Betts got traded, and I spent a lot of that World Series, I spent a lot of the playoffs just getting irrationally angry again. No, it's actually that my anger is rational to that because the only guy that we have left from that trade is Connor Wong. Like yeah, and it just makes me really sad. Like it made me really sad that like we could have had a generational talent like Mookie that wanted to play his whole career in Boston,
Mhm.
but like it was really cool to see him like when they win the World Series, you just see him like ripping off his cap, throwing it in the air, and just running in like, and
Yeah.
he seemed so happy and genuine, and I was like, all right, cool, like
How could you be upset about that? Like just
yeah,
yeah,
like
it just I mean, I understand. Listen, I understand the side from Yankees fans that they didn't want to see the Dodgers win. There's this whole LA versus New York beef, and Boston
yeah,
versus LA beef. I get that, but just when it comes to being happy for players that really are excellent, and I mean, he's in my mind, Mookie Betts is one of the generational talents that exists now.
yeah.
It's incredible to see.
And he was like, he probably was going to win MVP this season until he got hurt. That's the thing. Like he was playing at an
Yeah.
MVP clip until he got hurt.
Yeah, and it's wild. So like you have Otani, who probably is going to win the MVP, right?
Yeah. If
Uh,
anybody else votes for somebody other than Otani with a first place vote,
they should
that's
strip
dumb.
their
That's
voting credentials.
just get rid of your voting privileges right there.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no.
And
Like
but it's interesting that he didn't need to be the MVP in the playoffs for them to be able to win. Or in
nope.
in the World Series, right? Like he played pretty well up until the World Series. Didn't play great, in the World
Yeah, he hit
Series.
like 250.
Yeah.
Like,
But
yeah.
you know, and kind of his whole goal that like he wants to win 8 or 9 more. Like, that's
Love
just
that. Love that energy from him.
yeah, and
Love that energy
yeah,
from him.
just good for him, man. Really good for him. You could see how happy he was, and he's become a very um, intricately woven part of that clubhouse. Uh,
Well, part of what I really loved when they won was like he and Yamamoto are like best friends in real life. And like he
okay.
and Yamamoto like had a moment in the dugout where they you could see the joy like they were kids. They're like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, like we won this together. Like,
Yeah.
and it was just it was really cool to see. And I stayed up really late for game 5 because what I really like to watch after is like the trophy celebration and like
Yeah.
how excited guys get. Like that to me just it brings such joy to my heart. And I always get goosebumps watching that.
Hmm.
Like every year.
Yeah.
So
Even to mention, not to bring up Freddie Freeman again, but I didn't realize it was a Willie Mays trophy that the MVP
yep.
wins. But
Mhm.
he basically said like, you know, this one isn't even as important as the one that they're holding right here, and like
Yep.
it just shows you like he just embodies the way at least that I was raised and that you should handle those moments. So really,
Yeah.
really, really cool. But I wanted to get some of your thoughts on Dave Roberts and Aaron Boone kind of going forward.
Dave Roberts, that was a masterclass in managing. Like he's kind of gotten a rep in the playoffs of like, the fuck's he doing? Like you kind of got that with him every year. And this whole postseason run, he pulled all the right levers and like understood his team and understood what he had and didn't have. And
Yeah,
for him, for me, that goes back to the divisional series against San Diego. They're down 2-1 in that series, and he deploys a bullpen game.
yeah,
A bullpen game.
yeah.
Like in the game, in an elimination game that could end your season, he decided to go with a bullpen game,
And
and
it changed. Yeah,
he had enough trust in his bullpen and used all the right guys. Got it to a game 5, and then Yamamoto in game 5 like shut him out. Like
yeah. It just
that's
you know it's really interesting too. You had said, and I wish I clipped it from the beginning, but you had said at the beginning of the year like he needs to win the World Series this year for his job to be safe. I think he's bought himself
yeah.
at least another 3 years with this now.
He's bought himself. He's bought himself as at this point. I think he can be the manager of the Dodgers as long as he wants to be the manager.
Hmm.
He's bought himself that. Like
Yeah.
what he did this year. Like the amount of pressure that he was under. Like,
Yeah,
because I
you're
know I wasn't
right.
the only one saying it. I wasn't. Like
No.
everybody and their mother was saying, like, hey, like he's got to win it this year. And like for it to not go the way he thought it would, like everybody and their pitching staff was just like a grab bag by the end.
Yeah. And
Like,
the injuries that they had this year that they sustained, it was a very uphill battle based on very high expectations at the beginning.
yeah.
And really good to see him. What about
And
Aaron
then,
Boone? Oh, go ahead.
well, yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, and I think too for him to like he like Roberts was really fortunate. He had such a good lineup to like that they were always producing runs and they played good situational baseball. And with Aaron Boone, it's kind of the opposite. Like, and that's kind of what doomed the Yankees this season. Like all year, they were kind of like a Mickey Mouse club on defense. Like you're like, boy, this seems suspect. But because they kept excuse my language, mashing the shit out of the ball, like didn't really matter.
Hmm.
And like, but like when it got tight and like buttholes got clenched a little bit, like the Dodgers were relaxed and the Yankees, like you watched it in game 5 in that inning. Like Volpe throws that grounder into the dirt.
Yeah.
Cole forgets to cover first. Like you're not seeing that on guys with the Dodgers.
You
Like
you know
you're not.
you know
Like
it's interesting my because I talked to my dad a little bit about that and he said that like the practice of him covering first back when he was going through college and I think high school ball he mentioned as well was like something they practiced every single day.
yeah.
Every
I,
day. Huh?
Shane, I was in Little League and we practiced that every single
Yeah.
practice. Like,
You have to. And understanding you can't just go straight over because you could end up running directly into the runner. You need to kind of cut out and then cut
yeah,
back at an angle to be able to get there.
yeah.
So it's It's really tough.
And heads up on Mookie Betts too to recognize that play was happening and him hustling down the line
Yeah.
to get to beat that out.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's what threw them off guard too was that like Mookie is so fast.
He
Like that, I
is.
think that messed with Rizzo. And he's like, oh man, I can't get to there in time. And I think Cole was like, oh, I thought you had that. And you're like, man,
No.
I've watched enough baseball to know the pitcher covers that play 100 out of 100 times. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, with Boone, I think that like like I said before, that decision to bring in Cortez in game one, I cost him the series.
Mhm.
That cost him all the momentum
Yeah.
because after that, the Dodgers were like, oh, cool, we got this. And you saw it in game two, you saw it in game three, like, and then like game four, you're like, okay, cool. Like the bats started coming alive for the Yankees, and you're like, all right. And the first half of game five, same thing. Bats were
Same
coming
thing.
alive. You're like,
Yeah, they were
holy
up.
shit.
They were up.
Like judge the last two games of that series were really starting to come on. You're like, oh man, this is not what I wanted to happen. And you're
Yeah.
like, okay. And then like they couldn't play good fundamental baseball. And that's the key. I talk about it all the time. Like if you're good on the fundamentals, you're gonna be fine.
Right.
You're gonna be fine. Like
It was very, very interesting. And I was going to ask you, who you feel better about for next year, but I mean, right now, like the Dodgers have to be the favorite going into next year based on they've got a bunch of guys coming back, and then you look at what the Yankees are doing there. Yeah, they've decided to bring Cole back, but past
that was a
that,
weird situation too.
yeah, like he opted out and then went back. I for the same exact contract. I didn't understand that.
Well, so the way that works is like so it essentially it's going to be like he didn't opt out, but what they're going to do, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see this in the offseason, they're going to add more years to his deal and more money. Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
It
yeah.
just is so strange to I guess I don't quite understand it in that sense of why even opt out in the first place? Why not just stay under contract with him and just get extended? Like
Because he has the leverage. He had a really great season, and he was lights out in the World Series in the playoffs for him. And
mhm.
I bet too. Like, I don't think he'll ever admit it, but the way that felt was like that was we just lost the World Series in heartbreaking fashion, and I'm really pissed at it. Like
Yeah.
that's how I kind of read that.
Yeah, he did not seem happy when they panned to him in the dugout multiple times. It did not
Yeah,
look good. So,
yeah,
good.
yeah. I think the Dodgers, like injuries barring, like they're gonna have everybody come back next season, and like the Yankees, the big question is like, how much are you willing to pay Juan Soto?
Yeah, well, and that's
Because Juan Soto was a
yeah.
monster for them in the
Yeah,
playoffs.
that's been the
A
big question is
monster.
how much is he going to get? Is it going to be 14 years? Is it going to be 15 years? Is it going to be prorated? What is it going to do? Like, what's the contract going to look like? Uh-huh.
How funny would it be if the Dodgers signed him?
Oh my God. I don't,
I
I
don't like.
could, I'm not going to say could they because I feel like they have
It's
more money than
possible.
anybody. But anything else you wanted to mention on that before we move forward here?
No, it was really it was a great season. For me, I think for us, like respectively, I think we had different expectations with our teams going in for the season. Like you had really high expectations for Atlanta. I had very minimal expectations for Boston, and
Right. Uh-huh.
uh, Boston won a lot more games, and they were in the playoff hunt in September, and that's more than I could have ever dreamed of for this season.
Yeah.
And it just makes me sad that baseball's over. I love baseball so much, and I know we talk about it a lot on this show, and baseball just makes me really happy. And like
I
it is
know it does, man.
it's a beautiful, simple sport that's so complex within it's a complex game within a simple game, and it's beautiful, and I love it, and I'm counting down till spring training for next season. Like I can't
Yeah.
wait. So
It's interesting too because like I obviously did have high expectations for my team before the season and there's things that happened during the season like losing your best pitcher, losing your best player, that kind of
Yeah,
changed your perspective on things. But the fact that they made it as far as they did made me very happy. And
yeah,
so
and
I,
they made the playoffs
yeah,
with that depleted roster.
and
So
I really think that says a lot about Snitker and like what he was able to do. Was it interesting? Was it scary at times? Yeah, especially up until the last day.
yeah,
But the fact that they were able to do it and still survive with that, we saw some great things out of Chris Sale. I really don't want to see Fried go to the Mets or the Dodgers, or there's rumors of him going to Boston. I don't want to see that happen, but I'm also realistic in that they're probably not going to be able to pay a guy like that right now. So,
yeah.
um,
Can I ask you a quick Atlanta question before we go on to the next topic?
sure.
Do you How much fun on a scale of 1 to 10 was it watching Atlanta's bullpen this year?
Hmm. Well, we did a nice little segment on that. But yeah, it was rough, and
Yeah.
I saw they've already been active. They traded away Soler.
Yeah, I saw that, which was
Yeah,
kind of weird. But like,
already. So they're going to be active. They want to revamp that team, and because they feel like their window's still there.
yeah.
So we're going to
Oh, it
see.
is.
Yeah,
It
we're going to
is.
see
Yeah.
what they're capable of this year, and hopefully they get Strider and Acuna back, and they're good to go. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens with that. But let's move on. We got some things to cover in the NFL, some major storylines within the last 3 weeks. First thing, and I think this kind of has to be like the biggest story that's been talked and over talked and talked more about, was the Commanders' Hail Mary, and just kind of your thoughts on it, like just from what you saw, what you're gaining from it, all of that stuff.
Um, having the ability to watch that via Red Zone was the reason that I watch Red Zone. That, like
Yeah.
Scott Hansen, chef's kiss,
Yeah,
chef's
he
kiss.
is
Like
so good, man.
he's on the most recent episode of Games with Numbers. It's like
Yeah,
it's a 2.5 hour episode, but
dude,
like check it out.
Kyler
It's
is
really good.
killing it, bro. He is
Yeah,
killing it. Good
yeah,
for him, man.
yeah,
I'm happy for him. He just in that it's so well. For those of you that haven't seen it, an excellent podcast, kind of starring Julian Edelman, but they bring on guests and they do a really good job on there. Just very professionally produced. A nice polished product that gives you like a on the couch type feel with a lot of the
yeah,
guests that they have, and just a really, really good job that they do there. So,
yeah.
but yeah, Chris Hansen, he was epic with that.
Scott Hansen, Chris Hansen.
Yeah, sorry, Chris
I was
Hansen.
like,
Yeah, little bit of a different guy, guys. Don't Google
sure.
that. But yeah, Scott Hansen, and it was cool because on that podcast he talked about like being the first guy to talk about the Octobox and how they don't do
Yeah,
that in production,
yeah,
but that's something that he's like, no, I'm doing it. I'm gonna do it.
yeah,
So really cool that he was able to kind of narrate through all of and weave his way through all of what was happening with that game, and give you
right,
kind of like a very tangible perspective on what was happening there. So,
right.
what were your thoughts on it?
Uh, I think it says a lot about Washington because they played like ass for 59 minutes of that game. It
Yeah,
really just couldn't. They couldn't do anything, and
yeah,
like it was a rock fight between two rookie quarterbacks, and then Daniels just threw a ball that you're like. I was convinced watching it. I was convinced that Washington was going to get called for holding because you watch those plays where a quarterback
yeah.
scrambles for so long. Inevitably, they're going to nail somebody on that line for holding.
Yeah,
It
they
is
try not to on those plays. The
sure,
refs try to just let it play out as it's going to, but you're right. That is kind of the fear, right? That someone's
yeah.
going to get called for holding, something's going to happen like that.
And then like I, it's wild to me that Hail Marys still happen with a pretty regular. It happens pretty regularly because like just bat the ball down. Just bat the ball down.
Yeah, that's the way they teach you is to bat it down.
Yeah.
Don't bat it up. It's
Yeah, and then the receiver for Washington, like I'm blanking on his last name, but his first name is Noah. Like
Brown.
just like
Brown, yeah.
no, okay. He's just like right there, nobody's near him, and he's just like, oh hey.
Well, so
Like
that's his job is to be in the back, and they're supposed to tip it up And then
Yeah.
he's supposed to be there to be able to collect it. And he did exactly what he was supposed to do. And everyone lost their mind. It
Well,
was
also
so
people lost their
cool.
mind because of Tyree Stevenson. We got to
Yeah.
talk about that for a minute too. Like, bro, what are you doing? What are you
Yeah.
doing?
Listen, he already got
And he says he was talking
demoted
to
and stuff.
Bears fans, which
Yeah.
is bullshit. Such
You're
bullshit.
not buying
Like,
that? You're not buying
no,
that? Okay.
not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Yeah, I don't know. What I'm sad about with that is, and I don't want to give any light to it, just because like it's not what you're supposed to do. They're setting examples for kids on how to play the game. That's not the way you do it. And on top of that, it overshadows what an amazing play that was by Washington. How it was set
Yeah.
up, what Daniels did. He scrambled for what, 12 seconds to be able to make that
Yeah.
happen, and then literally heaved it. I love the name of it. Javelined the ball. He really did.
Yeah. There was no arc to that. That was just like that was a piss missile.
Yeah, it was. It was.
That as hard as possible.
Yeah.
In a straight line.
Yeah. And
No
seeing the view of Terry McLaurin, seeing him catch the ball and realizing it was just so gratifying. Very happy for Terry McLaurin, by the way, and Washington in general. Even reading the article that like it's a destination spot for people now where people want to be traded there at the deadline.
I've never thought I'd see that in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd read that sentence.
Yeah, very happy to see that. Good for them. Dan Quinn's doing some really good stuff there, and very happy by all of them. Austin Eckler look good
and
there
they have
too.
New ownership. They have new ownership that cares.
Yeah.
He's like Dan Snyder was like one of the worst owners in sports for a long time. And
Yeah.
like
In any league.
Finally sells the team, and like Josh Harris comes in, and like it's really cool to see.
Yeah.
I love it, and like it makes me really happy, like because those fans have gone through a lot of suffering.
And they deserve it. They deserve it, man. They not the suffering, the goodness in it. So
and I can admit this. I was wrong on Jaden Daniels. I can admit when I'm wrong.
Yeah. It's like he's fun to watch, man. He's really smart and he's making good plays. And yeah, he's one injury away from, being out for the year.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, like the things that we're watching him do, he's very smart at the quarterback position. It's really refreshing to watch him.
And Dan Quinn's the right guy to coach these guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like he's very much he'll tell you, hey, you fucking suck, but then also he'll be like, hey, it's gonna be okay. I love you. Like he's the perfect coach for a young team like this.
Yeah, the hit wall hug. Yeah.
I'm glad to see he's having that success after what happened in Atlanta.
Yes.
Like
I am too. So. He needed it. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be Super Bowl favorites, but that they're not an easy out in the NFC at all.
I'm going to ask a question. Why not? Like the NFC is kind of wide open this year. Like it's really the Lions to lose at this point. But like, why not? Like they run the ball really well.
Yeah, they play good defense.
They run the ball.
Yeah, they play good defense.
Yep.
And as
I agree. I don't think they're gonna. I think they're gonna make the playoffs. But like, you watch this with Stroud last year, where you're like, oh man, the moment got pretty big real quick.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it could happen.
Yeah, it definitely could.
I don't think it's going to. But like this season's been so weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Speaking of a weird season, the Jets got a big win over the Texans this past week. Are you sold on them yet? Or
no.
Okay.
No.
Even can I parlay into that question? Even with the cayenne pepper water?
I was gonna make a joke about that. God damn it. No, I don't, because like there's so many problems with this team, and the thing is like this team's out of moves. They cannot make any more moves.
Yeah,
this is the team that they're rolling with, and like Aaron Rodgers can't move anymore. What made Aaron Rodgers so great was that he could extend plays in the pocket, not by like taking off. Well, sometimes he did, but like moving around in the pocket, and he can't do that anymore.
Right. I am happy that Garrett Wilson finally does have a quarterback to throw him the ball, because
catch.
Yeah. Which one? Which one?
The one where he 1 foot in bounds and then his shin was also in bounds. Like,
the other one-handed touchdown catch that he had too was insane. So like he's just a freak, man. He's so good. Yeah. He's really, really good.
But yeah, the Jets have a really big, like, because Buffalo's like I think 4 games up on that division right
Yeah,
now.
they
Like,
can clinch this month.
yeah,
Yeah,
yep,
it's insane.
and like the Jets kind of can't afford to really lose any more games.
No, they got to win out or be
Yeah, and
very
like
close to it. And they're playing a
yeah,
decent schedule the rest of the way. So I don't know. We'll see.
yeah.
They still don't seem to run the ball particularly well. It just
I know you're somebody that owns Brees Hall in a fantasy
yeah.
team or two. How's that working out? Like,
Well, we're hoping he gets 35 carries a game to get 75 yards. That's kind of the, you know,
yeah,
it's rough. So,
yeah.
all right. So let's move on. Benching of Anthony Richardson. Your
I'm gonna
thoughts on this?
yeah. So I'm gonna. I actually I have a weird take on this. I know that Richardson hasn't been playing well, but like I think benching him like that wrecks his confidence.
Hmm.
And I wasn't a fan. I actually wasn't a fan of it. Like I know he's not playing well. That he went what 2 for 15 in the first half against Houston that week before. Where like you're like Jesus,
Yeah.
but like you he hasn't been like he missed most of last year and he's only played a little bit this year. Like I think you got to give him more time to see what you got. Like with no disrespect to Indy, but like they're not really making the playoffs shouldn't be your goal this year. Like it's a hey, let's just try to get better,
Hmm.
get some more picks, and like restock and like be a year or two away. Like the
Yeah.
benching for Flacco just seems so short sighted.
Yeah. Listen, Flacco's proven that he can step into being a good comparable backup, right? And
Sure.
I like that. Like he can lead an offense. We saw it with Cleveland last year. Indy, I was very happy when he signed there this year because if anything happened to AR, which has usually happened, right? He's getting injured all the
Mhm.
time. Definitely a good thing. But I think most of the benching with him kind of came from outside pressure, if that makes
So
sense.
you don't think that was Shane Steichen's decision?
I think
You think
it
that was Irsay's
was
decision?
I think it was Shane Steichen's decision, but what I'm trying to say about it is I think that it was kind of like uh based on the decision of what happened the week before with him kind of taking himself out of the game. And which doesn't happen. Saying like the way he handled that, all of that, he's just got a lot of growing up to do, right? Like you and I were spoiled growing up. We had some very, very good quarterbacks that led our teams, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Never once, dude. And I remember even watching when I was watching the Rams and Kurt Warner would get banged up. Dude, he never took himself out of the game. Broken ribs and everything. He was staying in there. Brady wasn't coming up. Okay, yeah, the ACL, but that's completely different. You know, Brady didn't take plays off. Manning didn't take plays off. That was it.
Yeah.
Like that's the dudes that we had. Andrew Luck, who was literally the dump truck of the NFL, where he would just get hit by everybody, never took plays
Yeah.
off, right? I think he needs to grow a lot in the position, gain more understanding, and I think with that his tools will be able to flourish. But right now, he's like it gives the impression like I've learned enough, I'm just going to let my tools carry me. And you can't do that in the NFL. You just can't. Um
That's the thing I always say about like college. Everyone's big and fast in college, but like in the NFL, like you can't just outrun everybody and expect
no.
that to be like unless you're Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
That's
who
that's
who
that's the exception to the rule.
who is faster than everyone it seems
Yeah.
game speed
Yeah.
wise in the NFL.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, no, I agree that the taking yourself out for a play wasn't a good look.
mhm.
I don't think that I don't think that he should have gotten benched. And like they're spinning it in a way where they're like, that's not the reason. But like we come on.
Yeah, we
Like
kind of
we all
know.
know the reason. Like, and
We know.
sure it's not a good look, but like, I don't know. Like again, that just seems like a short-sighted move.
It does.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. We got the Falcons in control in the NFC South. Bills, they got a huge lead in the AFC East. Like both of these teams, I feel like at the beginning of the year, we weren't super high on. Like the Bills, we were picking either the Dolphins or the Jets in this division.
Yeah.
And the Bills have just, they've sustained and done very well. And now they've got a massive lead there. The Falcons are the team, especially after Tampa Bay losing last night. the Falcons are in firm control in the NFC South. And
Yeah.
really, in my opinion, with Godwin and Evans kind of out, Godwin gone for the year, but Evans out for a little
Yeah.
while, they seem like the best team right now in the NFC South.
Yeah. So let me start with Mr. Cuckins. Um, yeah, I think what he's
Hey,
done
oh,
this year is
can you pause real quick? Because
sure.
before you tear him up, just keep in mind that he has helped your tight end, Kyle Pitts,
I
to
know. I'm not
some
gonna.
good
I'm not.
weeks. Mhm.
This is. Oh, I'm aware and very thankful. Also, he's finally letting my boy Bijan do a thing. So
Yeah.
also nice. Um, no, I actually wasn't. I know I've been not his biggest fan on here, but what I wanted to like kind of commend him for is that like he was kind of stuck in a real like he was stuck in a very kind of shitty situation. The moment that he played bad this year, you knew fans were going to call for Michael Penix,
Hmm.
and he has done a really good job of like he doesn't have the mobility like he used to, and he didn't have much mobility to start with.
Hmm.
So like that is what that is. But like he's a grown up in that locker room,
Yeah, he is.
and Atlanta definitely needed that. And he is a professional. And like I know that I dump on him all the time, but like the guy has won a lot of regular season games.
Yeah, he has.
Guy knows how to win a guy knows how to win a football game in the regular
Yeah.
season.
You like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like and I think that's really impressive that he's just kind of been the steady hand for them that they've needed.
Hmm.
Have they looked great? Not always. Sometimes you're like, Jesus, what are we watching? But like he gets it done at the end of the day.
Yeah, he does.
And I think that like he's made Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson and Drake London, I think for me has been the real like standout in all of this. Like
Hmm.
he always had Drake London always had the potential, but you're like, when's he gonna figure it out? And then like Cousins, once you get a decent quarterback, like Drake London's been a monster this year.
Yeah, yeah. He's had a really good season. He got banged up this past week, but
Yeah.
still, like I mean, he's had a very very good season because of Cousins being there. So, what about the Bills? How you feeling about them?
As somebody that was a Patriots fan for a long time and had a quarterback that could just guarantee you 11 to 12 wins every year,
Hmm.
it's nice to see there's consistency now where there's a new quarterback in the AFC East that'll get you 10 to 11 wins just by being him. And that's Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Like, like that is what that is. Like I think what was impressive is so Amari Cooper's a late scratch in that game before that game starts.
Hmm.
And they kind of fucked around for a little while with the Dolphins, but Josh Allen the second half throwing 3 touchdowns.
Big deal.
I don't know what else you can really say about that. Like that's a hey, I'm trying to win MVP this year, and that's a hey guys, we don't really have it today. Get on my back.
Do you know what the
I'm
difference
gonna make sure we
is?
don't lose this game.
Yeah, you know what the big difference is for me, man? And like, because he was that player last year too, and the year before, and the year before that. He's not turning
Yeah,
the ball over this year.
not nearly as much. Yeah,
And like that's a big difference. You talk about those turnovers that he's not giving away. Well, that's gonna give them a chance to compete with a team like the Chiefs.
yeah,
It really is. So
yeah.
very happy for
It's
them and Sean McDermott.
yeah, and they're doing stuff too. Like they're running the ball more than you think they're going to,
Hmm.
which is wild. Like, uh, Cook is averaging almost 5 yards a touch.
Yeah.
Like that's like they're not, and they're more balanced on running it this year, which I think is impressive. And you're right, Josh Allen like only has 2 picks so far,
Yeah.
2 picks and 17 touchdowns,
Yeah, he's played really
and
well.
kind of keeps getting underlooked in like the MVP conversation because like respectfully, what Lamar's doing right now is just nutty. And like
Insane.
what Derrick Henry is doing right now, also just nutty.
Yeah.
Like, so, but like if he keeps this up, this is the Josh Allen that like the Bills need if they want to get over the hump and try to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. Which
Absolutely.
right now it looks like they're gonna see each other again. Like,
Yeah.
and it's probably gonna be in Kansas City again.
Yep.
Like,
That's the way it goes.
yeah.
Let me ask you, so which team at the halfway point, because we are officially halfway, now. Which team at the halfway point is the most surprising for you?
I gotta think about this for a minute because there's a couple schools of thought with this. I think Washington. I think Washington is obviously, I think the big story. Like, if you had told me that Washington was going to be 7-2 after 9 games, I would have laughed at you. I would have straight up laughed at you and been like, "That's not possible."
Yeah.
Like, that's not. Honestly, you know what's been kind of fun to watch? The NFC West in general.
I'm glad you mentioned them.
I think it's like kind of funny that like everybody thought, well, the 49ers just going to march to another division this year. And like you and I talked about it on our preview show where we were like, this isn't as slam dunk as people think that this is.
Right.
Like there's some weird off the field stuff that's like kind of derailing them. And like we were right on that. Like Arizona's in first place with 5-4 right now.
Yeah, and that's my team. That's the biggest surprise. With
Yeah.
you know, I know there's not many people that predicted this and stuff, but Jonathan Gannon's got those boys playing, and they're making trades at the deadline now for players. They just traded for they just traded for a pass rusher from Denver. You know, they're ready to go, man, and they're not an easy out. Kyler he looks very good this year. James Conner is running the ball very well. Marvin Harrison Jr., like he's doing what he can. Trey McBride is just a stud.
Yeah.
And
also, yeah, no, I agree. It's wild to watch them. I think there's still a little smoke and mirrors with Arizona.
There is.
If you kind of if you do look a little deeper into the stats, there's a little smoke and mirror with them.
There is, but they've beaten some decent teams. They beat Miami, who we consider to be a good team when they had Tua back.
Beat San Francisco.
Yep, beat San Francisco. They're going to have more division games coming up, and that's what we're going to see. A lot of these teams start to thin out as they start to play in the division and kind of cannibalize one another going forward.
You know who I think that with the NFC West, that division's for the taking is the Rams.
Yeah.
The Rams, like they're getting healthy on the line. They have Puka back. They have.
Can someone teach Nakua how to throw a punch? Because like
God damn it,
that was the weakest punch, and trust me, you're gonna like the guillotine message tonight because we got a little hint at that. But just come on, like I wish
you're gonna hit a guy, hit a guy.
Yeah, like, hit a guy hard. Come on,
you're gonna get thrown out. Like make it worth your while.
Yeah. Come on, dude. Give the people what they want. Just because I wanted to touch on it last night because I feel like it's a big deal. The gutsy performance by Baker and the Bucks in Kansas City last night. Like it just this guy, I love watching this guy play. Everyone counts him out. Everyone says no, and like he loses his two best receivers. You expect this team to be in the dirt, and he just figures it out, man. Like he marches them right down the field to tie the game, send it to overtime. It just, I don't know. I love watching Baker Mayfield now. He just, he got his big payday in the offseason, deserved it, and really happy to see him. So just kind of curious your thoughts on that. And I mean, don't forget, this is against the Super Bowl champs. It really is.
Yeah, at home. Yeah, I really liked that. Like fourth quarter rolls around, they have like under 2 minutes to go up 70 yards, and Baker leads them down the field.
Yeah,
that was a big, like I like to call it, that was a big boy drive. Like
it was.
They needed a touchdown, and they did it. They got exactly what they were looking for, and I for one am impressed by it. Now, like there's some like there's like I read this morning a little bit about like, hey, should they have gone for 2 and for the win? And like,
right.
You can't. I don't know. Like, sure, you don't want to give the ball to Mahomes in overtime, like, and that's exactly what they did. But like, I'd rather play in overtime because, like, you know what? If your defense can get a stop, cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and Mahomes looked good. This is the best game I think I saw him play this season.
Yeah, he looked good, and he was banged up too. He almost had a scary injury there as well, rolling his ankle. But
yeah. Well, for a minute you saw Carson Wentz warming up, and I was like, "Oh man,
yeah, this is
here we go."
Yeah, no, let's not get this.
Yeah.
I just wanted to touch. We're not going to break down the entire game, but I want to bring this up because Thursday night football is Cincinnati at Baltimore, and we've been talking about this for a while now. The Bengals haven't won out since the last time these teams played, but remember the last time they played, Cincinnati was winning big, and then all of a sudden Baltimore came charging back and ends up, in overtime they end up winning the game.
Well,
Um,
Lamar makes that bonkers throw where everybody in Cincinnati could have tackled him. He escapes all of it and throws a dart in the
Well,
end zone.
well,
Like,
no, not yeah, yeah, not only that, but also like Derrick Henry in overtime, like they miss the field goal, right? McPherson does, and then
yeah,
Derrick Henry runs on the next play. Henry runs like 50 yards, and they had kept him in check all day on the ground. So I was gonna say, do you like what are your thoughts on this game? Do you feel any different about either of the teams? And how do you see this matching up for Thursday?
I see this as Baltimore just running down the throats of Cincinnati.
Mm,
That's it. Baltimore knows who they are as a team. They
yeah.
have figured that out. And it's, hey, if you can stop Derrick Henry, cool. You're not going to be able to, but good luck. And on the off chance that you do, cool, Lamar can take off. And on the off chance that you can like figure both of those out, great, because Lamar has stopped making dumb decisions with the ball, and he's just going to slice you and dice you. So like, how
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't think this is going to be a close game. I really don't.
I hope it is. Burrow's coming off a 5 touchdown game where like I feel like he looked pretty good. And
Against
they
Las Vegas,
yeah, but Vegas plays people tough. They definitely do.
sure.
It's I just I really hope that it is a close and competitive game. It's a Thursday night game, so I wouldn't be surprised if Cincinnati can sneak one in on Baltimore and snag a win from this. I feel like they're going to be up for this game because they've got a bad taste in their mouth as to how the last one ended. But I will say a few things that are going for Baltimore, and I know I haven't been their biggest fan this year in terms of how they play. I still don't think they're that great on defense. And they let teams hang around for way too long. But one of the things that's been really noticeable, obviously they're running the ball very, very well. But in addition to that, Mark Andrews has started to come alive for them.
Yeah.
And that's a difference maker. He really is. So while Isaiah Likely really hasn't been doing much for them, Mark Andrews has been figuring it out. And that's a big thing. Zay Flowers has been good too. Bateman's been healthy, which is knock on wood. Like that's a surprising thing to see that.
Yeah.
I really think
There,
that things are looking up for Baltimore, but I
there's
really think Cincinnati is going to make a push here, man. I really do. Even if they lose this game, what they go to 4-6, right? They'll go to 4-6, but
yeah.
they're still not out of it yet. Like nine games, 9 wins, 10 wins may get them in. Uh,
Yeah.
they're
I
right now they're not in if the playoffs started today, but I still think they're better than some of these other teams. And it's going to be interesting what happens in the AFC West because you've got Denver and the Chargers that have come on very strong. Both teams that I didn't think were going to be great are actually playing pretty well.
yeah. I think what Baltimore was able to do against Denver's defense was really impressive.
Hmm.
Because like Denver defensively, like say what you want offensively, like Bo Nix he's all right, but like
He's been
defensively,
playing a lot better recently.
yeah.
But
But Denver's second in the league in sacks.
mhm.
Like they're a good defensive team, and Baltimore went in there and was just like,
They beat the pants
fuck
off of them.
you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they beat the brakes off of them. And
Mhm.
like with Baltimore, like they're top five in passing and rushing.
Yeah, and Lamar, if
Like,
you look right now, I think he's second in the league in passing yards. Like he's
yeah,
he's killing it. So
yeah.
definitely
Like
firmly in position for another MVP.
when you're running for they're running for 191 yards a game right now.
Yeah, and
That's
that's a little
absurd.
down from what they've been doing. They've been up over 200.
Yeah,
So
but also too, like Baltimore defensively, like they're top five in sacks. And I think that's like
yeah.
something that like we were kind of worried about like what they were going to look like defensively. And sure, their secondary has been weirdly bad this year,
Hmm.
but that defensive line like gets after the quarterback.
Yeah.
That is what they do well, and that's why I think this is like I don't ever really trust Cincinnati and their offensive line. That's why I think this is going to be I think this is going to be a blowout for Baltimore.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that doesn't make me
Yeah.
feel good, but your job's
Yeah.
not to make me feel good. It's to be objective. So,
Sure. Sure.
all right. Well, let's wrap up. We got some fantasy stuff to just talk about real quick. You survived guillotine this week. How you
I
feeling?
didn't survive Guillotine League. You survived Guillotine League.
Yeah, listen, I know
Yeah.
you listen, I know you thought I was sweating it out, but I had some studs going last night. So I don't know. It does
All it
not
all it
it
takes is like an ankle injury in the first quarter for Kareem Hunt, and we're looking at this a little different today, friend.
yeah, it listen,
Just
it does
saying.
not feel good waiting to see how things are going to play out on Monday night. That does not feel good. I don't
Nope.
envy that at all.
No.
But I will say I did survive by quite a bit, and I wouldn't have been the last team chopped. It doesn't matter if you're in first place at the beginning. What matters is first at the end. So
Yep.
we will see. But and we are tied in the Bennett League. So
Yeah, your boy over here in New Hampshire, 4 straight wins.
yeah.
We started out the year not hot. We figured it out. Injuries early, but we're rocking and rolling right now, and
I
I feel pretty confident.
I also got to give a shout out to the Magic Maggot in my other league, which is Uncle Roger's team, and he was begging to get one win this year, and I think he just secured his fourth win of the season.
Wow.
The last month, I think he's gone 3-1, and just
Too bad he
absolutely
couldn't
killed it.
secure. Too bad he couldn't secure a spot in the Guillotine League and got eliminated so early.
Yeah, I know that stinks,
Yeah,
but next year maybe his Yankees will win the World Series. You know, who knows? So,
sure,
anything else you
sure.
wanted to mention before we wrap up here?
No, that's it. It's good to be back. I'm
Yeah.
glad we got to do this, and yeah, I think we got a good coverage of like everything that's happened the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, man. I'm excited. We'll be back next week. We'll cover some week 10 football for
Yep.
you guys. And yeah, like we'll eventually dive into off season of baseball and all of that stuff, but guys,
Oh,
it's football
real quick,
time.
one thing I wanted to say real quick.
Yeah.
Patriots inside track for the #1 pick right now. Love to see that.
Okay.
Love to see that. That's kind of what I'm rooting for at this point.
Drake
So
May also looks like a guy too. So, that
that
may be
touchdown
good.
pass,
Yeah.
boy. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was nice.
He's
Nice.
he's also just making some plays out there that makes him look good, but he's a little reckless right now. I just want to see more of that focused, and I think he could
Too
be all
bad.
right.
Well, I agree, and I think also too our offensive line is such trash. He's running the boy's running for his life.
Yeah, he definitely is.
So
He definitely is. Well,
yeah,
yeah, we will wrap up, guys. Thanks again for coming out and supporting us. We will be back next week, giving you
yeah.
guys more on week 10, and yeah, definitely have a good rest of the day, brother. I love you.
All right, I love you too.
All right,
Peace.
peace.